This is To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. Much to cover today. My guest, Republican Congressman Brian Mast and Democratic Congressman Ted Deutsch. We'll begin with Congressman Mast from District 18, covering Martin, St. Lucie, and parts of Palm Beach County. And sir, we appreciate you being with us.
Glad to be with you.
As I said, much to talk about. We'll begin with COVID. We have the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, the mask wearers versus those who do not want to wear them, and yet we see the Delta variant spiraling, schools strained, hospitals strained to capacity in Florida. Where are we? Where are we going?
I think we have a governor in this state that's going to do what I think needs to continue to happen, which is to say, protect yourself how you want to be protected. There's a lot of evidence out there that shows that there could be another variant, and this can keep going down the line. So the question that has to be asked is, are you going to have to get the next booster and the next booster, or the next vaccine for the next variant and the next variant? Where does that end? That's the question that continues to come down. And in the end, I think the governor's leading this in the right way to say, protect yourself the way you want to. If you want to wear a mask, you're free to. If you want to be vaccinated, you're free to. If you want to get a booster, you're free to. But that doesn't mean there has to be a requirement on every single person out there.
And yet, and of course, you're making federal policy, not state, but nonetheless, Florida is in the limelight. The fact of the matter is major school districts, including in Palm Beach County, are saying we want to be able to mandate masks. It's wrong of you to tie our hands and say it should be an option when in Palm Beach County, 93% are masking, 7% are not. I know you went toe-to-toe with Nancy Pelosi about having to wear a mask on the House floor. Candidly, should we be listening less to those in the political class and more to scientists who say mask help and that everybody needs to be vaccinated? It's something, by the way, I know you and the governor have pushed for on vaccinations, not so much on masks.
Yeah. And Michael, this goes to a conversation you and I have had previously. Your doctor can tell you need to do this, this, and this. And those things might all be accurate, but freedom and the Constitution also says that as an individual in the United States of America, you have the freedom to go out there and make those choices for yourself. And that's the point that we need to be at. Don't listen to me as a politician to say, this is my opinion about whether you should or should not get a vaccine or wear a mask. That's not the point of this debate. If you want to get one, you're free to, but other people are also free not to, and we can't encroach on those freedoms also.
Do those freedoms have constraints when they're impacting my health?
No, they don't have constraints in that way, because you could take this debate down the road to what about the flu shot? What about flu season? What about SARS in the past? What about the next variant of this? Because all of these things are not hyperbolic to tie together whatsoever. Right now, the federal government is literally playing out, should they be required to take a syringe, stick it through your skin into your arm, and inject something that's not fully FDA approved, and really not willing to follow other sciences where they go out there and say, okay, looking at antibodies and saying your antibodies are this, but unwilling to accept the fact that if you've already had COVID, you might have higher antibody levels, and that means that you shouldn't have to get the vaccine. They're willing to look at one place and not at the other, because I think that part of it is political. They just want to say you need the vaccine regardless of where your antibody levels are.
We'll turn to other topics. Spending. A $1 trillion infrastructure bill makes it out of the Senate, now before the House. House Democrats also pushing, as are Senate Democrats, a $3.5 trillion bill on top of that would greatly expand social services, free community college, expanded family leave, expanded Medicare, and the like. Where will we end up on infrastructure and on this much larger bill?
Yeah, I think you can point to a lot of this and say it's not infrastructure related. And I think you can look at all of this and you have to beg the question to say, expanded this, expanded this, expanded this. Who is it expanded on the backs of? It's expanded on the backs of somebody that's going out there, getting up, going to work, having it taken out of their pocket in order to pay for something for somebody else. And that's where, the line has to be drawn in the spending, in the debt, in the deficit. This goes to both sides of the aisle. Whether you want to talk about Republicans or Democrats, it goes to both sides. But in the end, they're trying to lump everything into quote unquote infrastructure that is totally unrelated and put it through in a budget reconciliation package that I think has no business going through the House.
The $3.5 trillion bill, they're trying to tie it in terms of passage. Just broadly, before we move on, the argument among Democrats is Republicans had no problem with massive $1.5 trillion tax cuts under the former president, that this would only tax, I say only for those who'd be taxed, they don't see an only there, but would tax those making $400,000 or more a year, tax corporations. and that it's necessary for infrastructure and for a social safety net where they argue, Democrats do, that we lag others in the developed world.
Yeah, look, I would agree with them to that point. We have no problem cutting taxes. That's the truth of it. I'll stand behind that all day long. In the end, somebody goes to work and that money's taken out of their pocket and sent somewhere and said, we're going to find a better way to send this. That's not to say that there shouldn't be social services. Of course there could, but the expansion that we were looking at under the guise of COVID to say, let's pay for this, and this. You paid for your school, I paid for my school, but now we're going to pay for somebody else's school in this way, and the list goes on. That's not the way that this needs to happen, and that's where you see that very stark divide.
Two other topics I want to turn to. First, briefly, Lake Okeechobee. The Army Corps seems poised to say we're going to do 75%, 80% less discharges in a new schedule over the next 10 years. At the end of the day, can we expect that that will stick and we're going to see significantly less discharges to the St. Lucie River estuary and lagoon? Where do you think we'll end up?
We are in the midst of a heated fight on this. You still have those that want to use Lake Okeechobee, the sugar industry, as their own personal reservoir. And if it gets too full, their reservoir gets too full, they want to be able to dump it on our coastal communities. We're still haven't moved away from that point. Where we're at, though, is that the Corps of Engineers did choose a plan that we were working through this day in, day out, literally for the last couple of years. They chose a plan known as CC that, as it is written, and I'm not going to say it's perfect, but as it is written, it would probably reduce discharges to the St. Lucie, probably to the tune of, as you said, maybe 75%. Now, here's the big caveat that we're still in the midst of a fight on. You have counties like Palm Beach County and others saying that they want to keep higher water levels in Lake Okeechobee. And what they want to do with that is they want to have their cake and eat it too. More higher water levels in the lake literally equals the need for more discharges out to the coast. We all know that from history. And what the folks in Palm Beach County, their commissioners, aren't wanting to acknowledge is that if they keep more water in Lake Okeechobee, that they're going to get discharges into the Lake Worth Lagoon. So you can count on those toxic blue-green algal blooms that you see going into Stewart. You could look to see those go to Palm Beach Island and to the city of Lake Worth and to downtown West Palm Beach and other places because they're asking to keep those water levels higher. Whereas right now, under this provision, they are under this plan, they are largely protected from getting those discharges. If they ask for more water, they can count on getting discharges.
Congressman, finally, want to talk about Afghanistan. You served in the Army, nearly gave your life in service to your country and the combat theater in Afghanistan. In our remaining 2 minutes, we've seen the withdrawal of U.S. troops, chaos there, a Taliban takeover. Both as a veteran and as a United States Congressman, where are we? What does it mean for safety of the American homeland? Your critique.
Yeah, safety for the American homeland. Let's start with that one. We have the most open, porous southern border that we've already seen terrorists trying to come across that border, combined with now creating the new terrorist club Med in Afghanistan, where they've released hundreds of terrorists that have been questioned in the harshest possible way for the last decade or more, now thinking that God ordained that they were released to go seek retribution on the United States of America. That's a big problem that we have right there. Those two things layered upon one another. Ongoing threat that's going on in Afghanistan. Every single minute that goes by, the Taliban become more well aware of the capabilities that they now have. America used to have the high ground. We used to have the fortified locations of the Bagram Airport, the most heavily fortified airport anywhere. Our embassy, the most heavily fortified embassy anywhere. They now have those high grounds. We have one very non-fortified airport that they're trying to fly thousands of individuals, Americans and otherwise, out of. And as President Biden acknowledged, they now have the most advanced military weaponry, which includes weaponry to kill people on the ground, but also shoot things out of the sky. That's a very dangerous situation as well. Bear in mind, again, the Taliban, they're not a centralized military that has command and control out of, say, a Pentagon. It's a bunch of warlords that are competing to be the baddest guys on the block. And if they can prove that by shooting one of those aircraft out of the sky, that's a very real threat that we now face as well. And it's getting more dangerous by the minute.
We'll have to leave it there. I know your support for your fellow veterans, that you salute all of them and their service in Afghanistan. It's a topic we'll take up more. I know as somebody who served and, as I said, nearly gave his life there, you look at it from a unique perspective. As always, Congressman Mast from the 18th District, we thank you for your perspective on many topics, sir.
All the best.
All the best, sir. Next up, the Democratic take on the same issues and asking what's next for aid to earthquake-stricken Haiti.